Hey everyone, welcome back to the Daily English Podcast, the place where you don't just learn English, you actually learn how to use it in real life conversations.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lauren, and today's topic is something that can really change how you speak English and, honestly, how you feel when you speak.
Exactly. And I like this topic a lot because it sounds simple, but it's very powerful. Think smart, speak fluent.
I really like that phrase, but I feel like many people might not fully understand what it means. So let me ask you, Michael, what does think smart actually mean in this context?
That's a great question, and I'm really glad you asked that. Thinking smart means you don't try to say everything perfectly. You focus on saying things clearly, quickly, and naturally.
Oh, so it's more about communication than perfection, right?
Exactly. That's the key idea. Let me ask you something. When you try to speak English, do you focus more on grammar or on expressing your idea?
Honestly, I focus too much on grammar, and I think that's why I get stuck sometimes, because I'm always checking myself.
Yes, and that's something many learners experience. When you focus too much on being correct, you slow down your thinking process.
Hmm, that makes sense. Because when I think about grammar, I feel like my brain is overloaded.
Exactly. And that's why thinking smart is important. You simplify your thoughts, you focus on key ideas, and you remove unnecessary pressure.
So instead of building a long sentence in my head, I should start with simple words or ideas.
Yes, exactly. Short ideas, clear meaning, faster thinking. And let me ask you, does that feel easier when you imagine it?
Yes, it actually does. It feels lighter, and I don't feel stuck before I even start speaking. All right, so we think smart, but speaking fluently still feels difficult for many people. What do you think is the biggest problem there?
Yes, and that breaks your flow. Let me ask you something. When you stop like that, do you feel more confident or less confident?
Definitely less confident because I feel like I made a mistake or I'm not good enough.
Right, and that creates a negative cycle. You hesitate, you lose confidence, and then you hesitate even more.
So, how do we break that cycle?
You break it by continuing to speak, even if it's not perfect. Fluency comes from flow, not perfection.
That's interesting. So, it's better to keep going even with mistakes?
Absolutely. Let me ask you, can you learn to speak without making mistakes?
No, I don't think that's possible.
Exactly. So mistakes are not a problem, they are part of the learning process.
That actually makes me feel more relaxed. So, speaking more is more important than speaking perfectly.
Well said, Lauren.
Okay, let's make this practical because I think examples really help. Can we try a real situation?
Of course, that is a great idea. Let's say you want to talk about your day.
Okay, normally I would say something like, I had a very busy day and I didn't have enough time to finish everything.
Right, that's a good sentence, but it can feel long when you're speaking in real time. So let's simplify it.
Okay, how would you say it?
You can say, busy day, no time, I didn't finish everything.
That's much easier. I don't have to think about structure too much.
Exactly, and that's the goal. Simple, clear, and fast.
So, over time, will my brain naturally create longer sentences?
Yes, exactly. You don't need to force it. It will happen naturally as you practice.
Oh, that's actually very reassuring because I think a lot of people try to force themselves to sound fluent too quickly, and then they feel disappointed when it doesn't happen.
Yes, exactly. And that's a very important point. Let me ask you something. Do you think learning a language is something that happens instantly or over time?
Definitely over time, but I feel like people forget that when they start learning.
That's true. And that's where frustration comes from. People expect fast results, but fluency is built step by step through consistent practice.
So instead of trying to be fluent immediately, we should focus on small improvements every day, right?
Yes, and I really like how you said that. Small improvements may feel slow, but they create big results over time.
That actually changes the way I think about progress. Because sometimes I feel like I'm not improving, but maybe I just don't notice the small changes.
Yes, that happens a lot. Progress in language learning is often invisible at first, but it becomes very clear after some time.
That's interesting. So, what's a good way for someone to notice their progress?
That's a great question. One simple way is to compare yourself to your past, not to others. Let me ask you, can you say things today that you couldn't say a few months ago?
Yes, actually, I can. When I think about it, I'm definitely more comfortable now.
Yeah, and that's progress. Even if it feels small, it's still improvement. And those small improvements build confidence.
So, it's like a positive cycle, right? You improve a little, you feel better, and then you improve even more.
Exactly. That's the cycle we want. And it all starts with simple thinking and consistent practice.
That makes a lot of sense. So, if someone feels stuck right now, what would you say to them?
I would say, don't try to be perfect. Don't wait for the right moment. Just start speaking with what you know.
That's actually very simple, but very powerful. Just start, even if it's not perfect.
Yes, because action creates progress, and progress creates fluency.
I think consistency is something people struggle with. They start strong, but after a few days, they lose motivation. Why do you think that happens?
That's a very common problem. People try to do too much at the beginning, and then they get overwhelmed. Let me ask you, is it easier to do something simple every day or something difficult once in a while?
Definitely something simple every day because it feels more manageable.
Yes, that's why building a daily habit is so important. You don't need 1 hour of practice. Even 10 or 15 minutes can make a big difference.
Oh, that's interesting. Because people often think they need a lot of time to improve.
Yes, but consistency is more important than time. Small daily actions create long-term results.
Okay, so we have thinking, speaking, and consistency. What about listening? How important is listening in this process?
Listening is extremely important. In fact, it's one of the fastest ways to improve your speaking. Let me ask you, when you listen to English regularly, do you notice patterns?
Yes, actually, I do. I start recognizing phrases and common expressions.
Exactly. And that's how your brain learns naturally. Instead of memorizing rules, you absorb the language through repetition.
So listening helps the brain get used to how English sounds?
Yes, and more than that, it helps you understand rhythm, tone, and natural expressions. And let me ask you, do you ever repeat what you hear?
Sometimes yes, but not consistently.
That's something you should do more often. Listening and repeating is a powerful combination. It trains your brain and your mouth at the same time.
Oh, that makes sense. So it's not just about understanding, it's about practicing actively.
Yes, passive listening helps, but active practice creates real improvement.
That makes a lot of sense. And I think many people don't realize the difference between just listening and actually practicing. For example, someone can watch English videos every day, but still struggle when it's time to speak. Have you noticed that too?
Yes, I see that very often. People spend a lot of time consuming content, but they don't actively use the language. And without using it, It's very hard to build fluency. Let me ask you, what do you think is missing in that situation?
I think the missing part is interaction. When you only listen, you understand, but you don't train your brain to respond. Speaking requires a different kind of effort. You have to produce the language, not just recognize it.
That's a really good way to explain it. Understanding is passive, but speaking is active. And your brain needs both if you want to become fluent.
Right. And I also think people are sometimes afraid to practice actively. They feel comfortable listening, but speaking feels risky. Do you think that fear slows down progress?
Yes, and once you feel more confident, you start speaking more, and that creates even more progress.
That reminds me of something simple. Even talking to yourself can be useful. For example, describing what you're doing during the day in English. It may feel strange at first, but it helps a lot.
That's actually a great method. It creates a safe space to practice without pressure, and over time, it becomes more natural.
Also, repeating short phrases out loud can help. Not full paragraphs, just small, useful sentences. That way, you build confidence step by step.
I agree. And short repetition is very effective. It trains your pronunciation, your rhythm, and your confidence at the same time.
So it's really about balance. Listening helps you understand, but speaking helps you use the language.
Yes, and when you combine both regularly, you create steady progress.
And that progress becomes visible after some time, even if it doesn't feel fast at the beginning.
That's right. Consistency makes the difference, not intensity.
I think it would be helpful to show how this works in a real situation, because sometimes people understand the idea, but they don't know how to apply it. What do you think?
I agree. Real examples make everything clear. Let's imagine a simple situation, something people experience every day. For example, ordering coffee.
That's a good one. Everyone can relate to that. So normally someone might think, I would like to order a coffee, but I'm not sure how to say it correctly.
Right. And while they're thinking about that, they start building a long sentence in their head, and then they hesitate before speaking.
Instead of that, they can keep it simple and direct. Something like, "Hi, one coffee, please." It's short, clear, and easy to say.
Yes, and that's all you really need in that moment. Communication is successful even without a complex sentence.
And once they feel comfortable with that, they can slowly add more detail. For example, "Hi, can I get a coffee, please?"
Exactly. And that's how progress happens naturally. You start simple, then expand step by step.
I think this also helps reduce pressure. When you know you don't need a perfect sentence, it becomes easier to speak.
Yes, and that's very important. Less pressure means more confidence, and more confidence leads to more practice.
So in real life, the goal is not to impress people, it's to communicate clearly and comfortably.
That's right. And when you focus on that, your fluency improves much faster.
I like that approach. It feels practical and realistic. Anyone can start using this immediately.
Yes, Lauren, and that's what makes it effective. Simple actions, used consistently, create real results.
So when you look at all these examples, it becomes clear that fluency is not about using perfect sentences. It's about expressing your ideas in a simple and natural way.
That's right. And once you understand that, speaking becomes less stressful and much more comfortable.
And the best part is, you don't need special tools or complicated methods. You can start with what you already know.
Exactly, Lauren. Just keep it simple, practice regularly, and give yourself time to improve.
And don't be afraid to make mistakes, because that's where real learning happens.
If you stay consistent, you'll notice that you start thinking in English more naturally, and speaking will feel easier day by day.
So take it step by step and focus on progress, not perfection.
And if you enjoyed this conversation and you want to keep improving your English in a natural way,
Make sure to subscribe to the Daily English Podcast so we can keep practicing together.
we'll keep things simple, practical, and real so you can use English with confidence in your daily life.
Thanks for spending time with us today.
And we'll see you in the next conversation.